Welcome to Evidently Speaking by Project Evident. I'm Sarah Troia. Project Evident harnesses the power of data, evidence, and technology for greater impact. Evidently Speaking explores the stories core to this mission and highlights the insights and successes of nonprofit practitioners and our partners. Project Evident worked with the technology and program leads of 13 nonprofits to co-create a practical and actionable Equitable AI Adoption Framework. The episodes in this series each examine one component of the framework and feature the experience and expertise of our partners. This episode focuses on the culture of innovation and managing change. It's the people side of AI adoption. Because AI implementation, it's really an organizational change. The Equitable AI Adoption Framework breaks culture of innovation and managing change into 4 key areas: providing ongoing AI training, encouraging shared learning, embracing continuous learning, and managing change. When we asked our partner how he thinks about change management, 2 words came to mind.
Trust building.
This is Scott Del Rossi, Vice President of College and Career Success at College Possible. College Possible's mission is to expand college access and college success at scale by pairing great coaches with smart systems so students persist, graduate, and launch their careers. Scott and his team at College Possible use AI tools to supplement their coaching. They use their historical data and institutional knowledge to provide better suggestions for students to get to and through college quicker. They also use these AI tools to handle a lot of the administrative tasks that their coaches were spending time on. That way, coaches have more time for quality conversations with the students that they're advising. For Scott, building trust means centering the organization's mission and students' outcomes when talking about AI.
We're all here for the same thing. We want to improve our student outcomes. We want to serve more students. These are our outcomes. This is how we think this particular tool will improve this outcome. And we learned that we just need to repeat this constantly, because just because we told it to someone once doesn't mean they heard it. Just because we said it once in one meeting, it doesn't mean they were there. And so this has always kind of forced us to start with that story around what our intentions are, to ground every other conversation, and so that we can push some of those like AI's here to replace us narratives towards the back of the room, because that's really not the intention, and allows us to focus on the conversation that we should have, which is around like, how is this improving outcomes? Whether that is augmenting what the coaches do, or in some cases it's replacing the function of the coach. We hope that the coach recognizes that we're doing that in a way that gives them more time to serve other students more better.
There are many academic frameworks to address the human and social dynamics of managing change. Kurt Lewin's 3-step model, Cotter's 8-step process, the awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement model, the list goes on. But what these models have in common is that each of them centers trust and helping people see how change will benefit them.
So change is, for me, helping people to understand that they have more to gain than to lose.
That's Adrian Mims, founder and CEO of the Calculus Project, an organization that uses research-supported strategies to help increase the number of Black, Hispanic, Indigenous people of color, and low-income students succeed in advanced mathematics. Adrian and his team use AI to help students learn math by guiding them through their work and giving feedback.
The thing about being a change agent and a leader and is this, and I think this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to change. You're dealing with people, and when you talk to someone about change, one of the first things that they think about is, what is it that I have to lose? Because they're thinking about something that you're taking away from them, especially if they feel like what is in place is benefiting them. The selling point has to be, yeah, I want to talk to you about change, but let me present it to you in a way wherein that this change is going to make things better. So for the person that is in a very high position and they're benefiting from the status quo, I got to sell it to them that if you like the status quo, you're really going to like this change. It's going to make it even better. For the person or the group that is asking and begging and pleading for change, it's not that much of a hard sell because the status quo stinks for them. So they're like, yes, yes, please give us change. So you really have to understand that, I believe, and you have to understand the people you're dealing with, their motivations, and you have to craft a message in a way wherein that they're heard, but they also need to hear you.
So lay the foundation for AI implementation using the guidance of proven change management frameworks. But AI adoption is not just about managing the social dynamics of change. It's also about the practical and tactical training of how to use AI. At College Possible, AI training was about practice.
Really just wanted to focus on the workflows and the processes and how these sets of tools that AI are giving to us are just enhancing those as processes. And so we didn't, really spend a lot of time on like the theory and, this is what AI is, this is how it works. It was mostly just around this is the process that we're trying to do. This is how this one specific tool makes this process better or more efficient or have a bigger impact. And then training them on that specific use case. That allowed some of the noise to get blocked out around AI. And then that also allowed us to really just focus in on this is a benefit for you, and that you can see how that's very tangible in that space.
That emphasis on hands on learning, that showed up across the organizations we interviewed.
So we actually tried mix of approaches for AI training because people learn differently. Some of our team members took personal courses, things like Coursera, Udemy, to explore on their own pace. We also ran a few internal, like lunch session, where internal folks who already had been experimenting with AI trained rest of the group what AI could do for them. We also brought in an external AI trainer, actually, who really helped demystify the whole space. Not just train about how ChatGPT work, but they broke down to basics what a large language model actually is. How does the image recognition really work using some real world example?
That's Rakesh Verma. He's Vice President of Product and Technology at Catalyst Exchange. Catalyst Exchange empowers mission driven organizations in education, public, and social sectors. They provide practical guidance and connect organizations with expertise, tools, and hands on support to drive meaningful and measurable outcomes. Rakesh and his team use AI to accelerate making sense of complex data to generate actionable insights. You just heard Rakesh use the term ChatGPT and large language model. ChatGPT, it's a prime example of generative AI. For generative AI, Gen AI is like an artist. It makes original stuff, original texts or images or music, but out of old things. At Catalyst Exchange, they deployed diverse learning formats to reach all kinds of learners. Back to Rakesh.
What I've learned is different format work for different people. For some, like this deep dive how AI work was fascinating, including me. But for others, it felt too technical, and in some cases, maybe not the best format to learn. So the biggest takeaway for us on our AI training isn't one size fits all. It's about meeting people where they are and helping them both understanding and confidence over time.
Training is only the first step. Real change happens when people learn with each other.
Well, that gets into our first AI pilot, where we invited champions from every team, not just the tech team, but champions from every team people who were curious enough to experiment. And that was one example where what surprised me the most is our tech lead and the program team member who barely work together dive in together. They approached the problem from completely different sides. Tech thinking was about systems, programs thinking was about people. And together they built our first real AI use case. Watching that collaboration, to be frank, was incredible. It just wasn't about the pilot anymore. It was about building the trust and building something together as a team.
For College Possible, learning showed up through an unexpected opportunity that brought together one of their coaches on the program team and the technology team.
One of our coaches, our direct service providers, was working with a group of students, and then for a whole variety of reasons, they had to take on a much bigger portfolio, and so that really set the direct service provider, the coach, up in the space of like, there's no way we're going to make this work, and that all these students are just going to get less of a service because of this. Um, Coincidentally and serendipitously, like that also aligned with our deployment of our AI tools. And so they were really able to use these tools for the first time, as we were piloting them with the team with this larger caseload. And just the quote just that I remember was, this person saying like, I never thought this would be possible, but after using these tools, I recognize that these students are actually receiving, a quality service, and it actually does give us more time to work with the students that need it the most. And that just has always stuck out for me because of just that previously, like it would be impossible to increase caseloads without a ton of pushback. But because of how we had to do it, we just have this very positive like use case that came out of it, and narrative and story from this individual.
In a field where technology is evolving so quickly, organizations need to embrace continuous learning and find time for play. For Scott and College Possible, continuous learning starts with curiosity.
I think for me personally, in trying to either keep up with the trends or stay ahead of the trends, I think it just has required me to just keep this like curiosity hat on at all times, or like new learner hat on at all times. I think part of that is who I am, so that's just been helpful in that sense. If I learn about something, I can really dive into a rabbit hole around a certain topic. But it's something that for me, I paid attention to other orgs in our space that are looking at this work and seeing how they're applying these different tools and technology. But it's also been really important for me to, pay attention to other fields and industries that are using these tools in different ways, because they're often the ones that kind of give you some of these like, oh, that's actually a really novel and new usage of how this technology might apply to our space. And then it's also just been really good to just hear it from the expert's mouth. A lot of these research and technology center hubs, AI hubs, have been really great to follow, especially since they're doing so much around the research around the effectiveness of AI tutors, and how like the common language AI models and how those are all beginning to develop, just to see kind of what they're thinking about in terms of what the future holds, allows us to think a little bit more broadly, since we're not always thinking about it in that way as well.
At Catalyst Exchange, innovation often happened in small, unscheduled moments.
One of, and it may be a controversial thought to be frank, one of the thing I have learned that innovation doesn't happen in big scheduled events. It happens on those like in between small spaces where people feel safe to explore, to experiment, to share, to challenge. And that actually is inspiring one of our future initiative. We expect to do more like an AI hackathon where not just engineers, but folks across all the team can come together, experiment, test ideas, and learn from each other.
Change is one of the hardest things we do as human beings, and managing change inside organizations, it's one of the most important aspects of planning for AI adoption. Scott has advice he wants to share with his peers.
I think it's build trust and talk to a lot of people about what you're trying to do. So that way people understand your intentions, and people know hopefully that, your heart or your kind of mind is in the right place. And that, kind of pushes out some of those external narratives around AI and just allows you to have a more rich conversation. And I think that's been the most important part of how we've thought about the change management.
And if your staff is skeptical, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Here's what Rakesh wants you to remember.
One thing I would say is if you are hearing more questions, more skeptical voices, I think that's the perfect start for a great team. That does mean they care a lot. That does mean they need help. And as the manager leader into the team, that creates the space of that innovation. And it's okay not to be perfect the first day.
As we wrap up this episode, remember, managing change isn't about moving fast for the sake of speed. It's about building trust, training people thoughtfully, learning together, and staying curious. And also, don't forget to play. Thank you for listening to Evidently Speaking by Project Evident. I'm Sarah Troia. At Project Evident, we work to build trusting partnerships and expand access to tools so leaders have what they need to improve outcomes. We believe that when practitioners are equipped with actionable data and evidence, stronger and more meaningful outcomes for students and communities become a reality. To learn more about our mission and work, visit projectevident.org.